Good morning, everybody. Hope you all are doing well today. I just want to mention a couple things for week 9 of this semester. First and foremost, I am still in the process of grading your second reflection papers. I had a lot of grading to do this spring break, but I look to finish them by the end of the week. So if yours is not up on As You Learn yet, just fear not. I'm in the process of getting them all done. So just hang with me, and we'll get that situated in the near future. The second thing I want to mention, and probably the most important for this upcoming next 2 weeks, is your third and final reflection paper, which is going to be due on March 30th by 11:59 p.m. I believe that's on a Friday. So that's 2 weeks from now. This is going to be a bit of a more difficult paper than what you've been previously used to. The first two papers were going to be, in essence, basically defining persuasion, critiquing something in persuasion. Now I want you to take it just one step further and invent something in persuasion. And that can be a little difficult. Considering you're just starting out in persuasion, but hopefully by the essence of what we talked about within the last 9 weeks of talking about theory and concepts within persuasion, we're getting a better grasp of what persuasion is, how to define it, how to critique it, and what are some things that we can add to it. So that's one area I'm really interested in, and I want to convey this interest to y'all in terms of understanding what certain things mean, again, how to critique them, and what can we invent from it. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of talking about the chapters, which I will do Wednesday and Friday of this week. So I'm going to cover over Cialdini and Denton, hopefully I know Wednesday, but I'll try to do something on Friday as well. Thursday will be our normal theory Thursday, where I will be covering over agenda setting, framing, and priming. So those are all 3 mediated related theories that have to do with what is important with news coverage, for instance, what is important within the story. So basically what story is selected to be important, what within the story is important, and then what do we take away from this? So this is a lot of media priming in this case. So agenda setting, framing, priming is what we're going to be talking about on Thursday. So that's a major topic, and it's a little bit of a difficult one to grasp. However, it's still very interesting at least in my opinion. I actually did my master's thesis on framing. But again, things to think about in terms of major outlets. Now, I will mention there is no discussion board this week. I really want y'all to get started on this paper and get a head start as much as humanly possible. And that's what I want to talk about today. So today, within your reflection paper, this is the main topic of interest. And then talking a little bit not only about what I'm expecting, but also what makes a good theory. So, what are some of the things that you may see within a theory that the particular theory isn't addressing right now? In addition to that, maybe looking in terms of deleting a concept that you don't feel that is necessary within a theory, and use your anecdotal evidence in terms of things you've seen to help with that. Use scholarly articles to help with that. This is all going to be major foundations for what we're going to be doing. And I'm going to give you an example of, this is actually a paper that was assigned to me when I was a student in persuasion, and I'll show you what I came up with that actually went for a conference paper. It never actually got published in a journal per se, although I think it still probably could. I just think it's a really interesting thing to look at, but it shows you the small areas that can be incorporated into a theory, but at the same time what's important about it. So let's talk about the third reflection paper. Now, third reflection paper is not going to weigh any different than any of the other two. It's going to be 15% of your grade. Like I said, it's going to be due in 2 weeks. It's a little longer. It's 3 to 5 pages. I want to give you all a little bit more room to roam, if you will. I noticed that some of your papers were a little bit longer than the 2 to 3 from last time. So I'm going to give you all a little bit more room to discuss. And I think that's going to be important for everybody to give you that extra room so you can help define things clearly. So within this particular paper, first and foremost, theory is a term that has interrelated constructs that explain a phenomena within the natural world. So theory is not fact. It is things that are observable. They are things that can be tested through hypotheses, design, and can give us a better understanding of this natural world. And it's not made to work miracles or make extreme generalizations, but just make a better sense of how we do things. So they're not perfect, though. They have limitations. Theories change constantly. We do things to theories. And speaking of framing, for instance, there's at least 3 different camps of how people perceive framing in this case. And many people will disagree in terms of how media coverage does things. So, we always move things around. We always talk about things in different lights, and that kind of builds us when it comes to theory and understanding, what makes a good theory. And so the theory I work most with for the most part is what's called parasocial interaction and relationships, which was a theory that was pretty cool. Sorry, my phone went off. Turn off my phone. It's pretty cool, and it originated in 1956, kind of fell off the face of the earth in the 1960s, and then has made a huge resurgence here in the aughts and teens in the 2000s. So, but it was a good theory. And there's a couple of things that I'm going to talk about that were the good theories that I don't know why people have neglected. So, social balance theory is one towards the end of the semester that we'll talk about. That, again, I think is a really good theory, but just hasn't gotten a lot of exposure. So, for this assignment, I want you to conduct what's called a risky paper. And the reason that this term was coined in terms of risky is you do take a risk. You do take a limb out to be able to critique a theory to the point where you're adding something to it or deleting something from it. So it's a paper that incorporates logical inconsistencies from a theory that we've talked about and incorporate a new component of the model or delete something. So you're explain what the theory is. So that's the first thing. You want to explain what the theory is, where the limitation is, and what do you plan on incorporating so that it makes sense to you. So those are the 3 steps to doing. So define the theory. What is the inconsistency? What do you plan to bring to the table in terms of, understanding this theory better, in terms of incorporating new knowledge? So again, this is going to be difficult, and you are going to go out on a limb to try to make this better. But it is really important to take into consideration. So for the optimal score for this first paper, please pick a persuasion theory that we have covered over in the syllabi. It's all there. So if you have a question, look in the syllabi first in terms of what theories we've gone over. But it has to be a persuasion theory. You can't just pick one willy-nilly from Wikipedia or any site like that. If you just see a theory that you want to do, make sure it's a persuasion theory. And if you're unsure, just email me. We can go over it. But again, I want it to be a persuasion-related theory. Look at that model and concepts within the theory, define it, and then critique those ideas that need improving, and then develop this concept. If you, and this is speaking very hypothetically, if you want to take on the task of developing a new theory, you can. I think it's going to be a challenge. It's not that I don't recommend it, but I would probably email me first if you're going to pursue doing something completely new. So I had a classmate that invented a theory that had to do with the open time space of the ellipses in the text and what that communicates in and of itself. So pretty cool. I don't know that she ever went through with it, but pretty cool theory nonetheless. So obviously provide a reference page. Make sure you follow your APA style guide. You know all that. The next things I want to cover over are basically what makes a good theory. So when you're going over theories, these are things you should be looking out for. So first and foremost, what makes a good theory? First and foremost there, I'm repeating myself, is a scope, is that it's general and widely accepted. Look for scholars that have cited theories in the past. See how they talked about things, see how they've worked in different areas to incorporate new strategies to it. This may actually help you with some of your ideas. So that's the first thing. Second is appropriateness. How well ontology, epistemology, and axiology relate to the issue. So what is it about the nature of truth? What is it about the nature of our natural world that it makes sense? And again, what is it about this generalizability that we can make out of this? So how does it incorporate in the basis of science that we can not only test it, but we can make it generalizable? And I'm going to go over something that's very similar to that. Third is heuristic value, operational value for future studies. In other words, can this be a theory that can be incorporated with different phenomena? So the theory that I'm going to show you up here, so you can see it up in this little region right here. This is the theory of planned behavior. Now, granted, this is my modification to it, so I'll talk a little bit about that, but it's basically saying that within this theory, can it be applied in different scenarios? And so theory of planned behavior is something that everybody uses. Well, everybody. Advertising, communication, marketing scholars, they like this theory because it's simple and it's easy to use. So this is a good theory to be able to look at and critique because in this case, it's got good heuristic value. Because this particular theory has been done for alcohol consumption, it's been done for sunscreen usage, it has been done for intentions to work out. There's a lot of different behaviors and attitudes towards those behaviors that links into this, and a lot of those behaviors can be tested along the line. So it's actually a really good theory in that regard. Validity, how much can a theory accurately represent the true nature of this world, which basically states, we're looking for accuracy. So it can't be something that you just noticed once and have never seen again. It needs to be something that maybe you've seen over a period of time, and this is just something that I was particularly interested in because I've seen it several times. So this may be an incorporation you want to implement within your paper. Parsimony, which is the simplest possible solution. Theories should be simple. They shouldn't be so overly complex that they can't work with other theories. So parsimony in this case works really well with heuristic value because it looks at not only how simple it is in terms of the understanding of what it means, but it's simple enough to be replicated. In this case, you think of things that go viral or things that are memes. Usually they're pretty simplistic and everybody can do it, which makes them memes in the first place. Last thing is openness, and it's open to skepticism and compatible with other theories. This can be a little difficult, but one thing that I've been kind of trained to do is being able to combine theories together. And although that's kind of difficult to be able to do, it can be something where other theories can be plugged in for future studies. So, I could go on a list of things that I've done in the past, but I'm going to avoid that for now. But if you have any questions, let me know. So this is an example of what I'm looking for this particular paper. So you'll notice here, it may be really hard to read here, and I'm going to try to point here. The components of the theory of planned behavior are thus, I'm working in reverse of my camera, attitudes, norms, and perceived behavioral control. Go to your intentions. There we go. They feed into your intentions, which feeds, there you go, into your behavior. So, that has been the general consensus for theory of planned behavior for years. People have been using this for years in terms of being able to understand what is it about intentions, what is it about behavior, and how do attitudes, people that are your friends or family in terms of norms, and can you do it, which is your perceived behavioral control. Cool, right? So, with these components, though, this is all well and good. This is a good theory that a lot of people use in this case. There's a part of the theory that was implemented, I think it was in 2004, that was past behavior, that implemented and said past behavior helps affect your intention to do something and your attitude. So think of it in the sense of, skiing or snowboarding. If you've done it before, that will affect how you feel about it, and it will affect your intention to do it because you will go through some past memories of some of the things that you've done. So that's all well and good. Where I came in with the risky paper was I said, what about valence? So what is what's called outcome valence. So within past behavior. So there we go. So you'll see here with past behavior, they affect intentions and attitudes. Oh, I'm getting a little bit better at this. So those are important. But you'll notice way up here, I'm getting less good. You'll notice way up here that there's a positive and negative sign that's linked to past behaviors. And it's basically saying that within your past behaviors, and this is what I implemented to the theory itself, and this is what I want you to be thinking about. So that's not going to be what I did. It's going to be your specific idea. But basically, how can you implement to a model or add to a concept that will help us understand things? So my idea was, when we go into the notions of intentions and attitudes, part of it looks in terms of the valence of that past activity. So it's not just that you went snowboarding one day and now you have an attitude of it and you have an intention, but you got to think about, how was that experience? So in this case, I wanted to look at, was it a positive experience or a negative experience? So if it was positive, your attitudes of it would be positive, and thus you would probably be more likely to engage in those intentions. Conversely, if you looked at negative intentions or a negative experience, you would look into saying, I don't know if I want to do this because of that negative experience, and I've got a poor attitude towards it. Poor attitude sounds wrong. A negative attitude towards it just because you had that poor experience in this particular case. So those are very important to think about. At least that's how I perceived it. Another thing I thought about it was how it may affect things that are, quote, unrelated. And this was something that I went a little bit too far off the deep end here in terms of my thinking here. But one of the areas I looked at was the notion of, if, let's say, you go through a rough period, and you might say, okay, this is something that's another rough period in my life. So let's say you've had a hard time in school before, but you got through it. Now you're going through a tough time at work, but you understand that, hey, I've gotten through that tough part in school, therefore I've got this positive experience in terms of saying, during tough times, I'm going to feel good about it because I know I can work through it. So that could be an example of it. Again, I went a little bit too far, but think about it. And again, this is a simple addition. All I did was said there should be valence with regards to past behavior that affects attitudes and intentions. That's the kind of thing I want you to be thinking about with this project, is thinking about it in the sense of, what am I looking at with regards to this particular theory? is there anything missing? Is there anything that you say that could be improved on? So, again, I look through those theories. I guarantee you there's a lot of stuff there. And if you're really set on a theory, you think one is particularly interesting, go through EBSCOhost first and start seeing what other people have done in terms of how they've critiqued it, how they've implemented certain things to it. Because I guarantee you theories have changed over the years in terms of implementing new things. So think about that and try to say, what is it about this theory that needs to be added or deleted in this case? And email me. Let me know if you've got any questions about this. Because like I said, this may be a little difficult, especially since you're just getting the hang of this. But again, here to help, here to provide any assistance you may need. So that's it for today. I'm going to be talking about Cialdini on Wednesday, and then on Thursday I'll do agenda setting, framing, and priming. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all tomorrow. Okay, bye.